Hello everybody, happy 4th of July. My name's Tiffany, I'm the Tipsy artist, and we are going live today with a beautiful painting. It's got some beautiful poppies and a picture and a little American flag. All right, so let me show you the model. This is our inspiration. So we've already painted this once in a show we did in our studio just recently, and I learned a lot by watching beginners. So we are going to simplify this just a little bit in the background, but that gives you a really good idea of what it looks like. And of course we'll be posting the model on the video, so you can always reference that. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about our templates. So I've got my trace already down. Let me scoot this over so you can see that. All right, so I went ahead and worked on that. So our kit comes with all these really awesome little shapes here. So we have all these really cool little poppies. See how cute those are? Hi, Kathy. Little medium-sized poppy. And then a little poppy that's kind of in a different shape, the one that's kind of coming up where you see the side of it. All right, and then we have your American flag. And then we've got a picture. And then I use a ruler to do like the little stripes in there, and then also work out the little table that happens here. It kind of looks like a little picnic table. Happy 4th! Hi Kathy, hi Sean. Happy 4th of July, woohoo! All right, so we have all this done. I would definitely encourage you to use your pencil to start with. And then once you've got it all firmed up, then you can come back with a Sharpie to go ahead and firm up everything once you're happy with how it looks and everything. All right, now let's talk about the tools that we've got. So our kit comes with a little kit of brushes here, and then also it has paint. And I promise yours looks a lot nicer than this, but here's mine. I use mine, so mine's all messy. All right, and then of course it comes with the canvas, and then all those cute little templates that we just showed you. All right, so we're all set, all ready to go. I've also got some water nearby, and then also an awesome little rag or paper towels, works just fine. All right, so in the background, that's what we're going to go ahead and get started with. And in the model, you probably noticed just a large abundance of bright yellow. I'm still going to do some yellow flowers in the background, and we'll pounce in a little bit in our bouquet here. But I am going to simplify the background a little bit because, as I mentioned, we worked this out. I watched about 10 beginners do this class, and I noticed that one of the things that they expressed to me was that they struggled a little bit with the background. So there was some complexity there with shadows. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of simplify that out a little bit, because we're all about simplicity, and that's my main goal. We want to make sure that the painting process is very therapeutic and that you have a sense of accomplishment when you're done. All right, so here we go. We're going to start by mixing up some turquoise. So I've got my little buddy brush here, and I'm going to go ahead and pick up a nice big dollop of the white, and then a dollop of the green, and then a dollop of the blue. And the main thing at this point is just about equal parts on that. So we're going to mix all that together, and then I definitely keep a lot of pure white off to the side here. So I'm going to use that a lot to kind of mix back and forth into the surface area. All right, again, this is my mama brush. And as I start to apply this in the background, I'm definitely wanting this really nice textural look happening. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little crisscross stroke. So y'all have seen me do this. If you've been to my classes a lot before, you know this is one of my favorite strokes here. So in the beginning here, as I place this down, what am I painting? Well, let's see. Hello, Sam. This is going to be this. Yay! Eventually. So that's the inspiration. So now we're going to get started here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and push this down. Now, right now, that turquoise is kind of looking very flat and all the same. So I need to, let's make sure you can see that. All right, so now I need to add some highlights into the mix. So now I'm going to push into the white, and I like to do a little bit of this mix actually on the canvas itself, so that you do see some of those highlights just really come through in more of a vibrant manner just right over the top of the canvas. So I'll push some of that in. And then also as I continue to work this, and I also want to just dab into a little touch of that pure cobalt blue. Yay! Happy 4th of July. I like that. That's awesome. Thank you. That's so fun. I may borrow that and share that with all my people today. That's a great little, what do they call that? The GIFs? GIF? Yeah, I'm kind of, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I know a lot about technology, and then other times I feel like I know nothing about technology. So, all right, so here we go. We're going to go ahead and start to paint all this into the background. So we do have this turquoise that's already mixed up. So that was all 3 colors, white, blue, and green, all mixed up all together. But then as I work it, I want to continue to dab into the turquoise. Push that back and forth in a cross stroke. Then I want to dab into a little bit of that pure white, and then push that back and forth. And then a little bit of the blue, and then push that back and forth. So I'm going to keep all of this going back and forth so that you can see how those little elements of color really keep popping through, whereas when you mix them all together, see, then you lose all those colors, and they basically just they morph into one color, which is great. But when you want to see some colors pop out into the mix, then you have to do like a separate mix actually on the canvas itself. And you want to keep a really light hand, and you want to make sure that how you hold the brush is more over to the side. So that becomes really important. So you want to keep that brush more parallel to the canvas. And then that will really give you a light hand. And it allows that color to kind of peekaboo right there. So let me kind of give you an up-close look at that. So you can see how I'm leaving just a little bit of that cobalt blue to kind of peek out through there. And the only way that that can happen is if I just do it as I mix. So same with the white. You can create just a little bit more drama through the background with that. Now the other thing that you can do, which is fun, is you can also add little tiny amounts of that bright primary yellow as you go. And I'm going to show you that here in a minute. But that's going to look like we have a little bit of sunshine coming through in our sky. And it's much easier on you to apply it that way. All right, so, oops. I was a little out of control there, my little motion. That's okay, I fixed it. You get it quick enough, you can just take care of it real quick. All right, so as I get really close to that line edge, see the edge of your brush also has a long line edge, so I get as close to it as I can, and then I just go ahead and pull up from that line. The other thing you can do too is to keep it really like one fluid straight line all the way across. I'm going to go ahead and take that brush and just go ahead and go all the way across there. That'll make one nice tidy little line. You can do this all the way around that shape, and then once you've got that cut-in line done, then you can go away from that shape and start to pull out with that textural move that we've been doing. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and position the brush just flat into the paint, and then flat up against this line edge, and then pull out to the side. And then I'll go ahead and push into some more white, crisscross that back and forth. Gives you a really nice blend. And let's talk about those edges a little bit too. So I don't typically ever paint mine because it's kind of boring to watch in a live show. And also I don't have time to ever paint all the sides of my canvas because I've just got thousands of paintings that I do. So, but if you're at home and you're a little bit more relaxed and you want to go ahead and do that, you certainly can. But here's the general rule on it. If you are going to have this framed, then you don't have to worry about painting the sides. And you do want a little bit of overlap, just gently over the side like that, just to make sure that you don't have any peekaboo white coming through. But other than that, you don't have to worry about it. But if you do want to hang it on the wall, which you certainly can, and you don't want a frame around it, that is certainly an option. And then in that case, I would recommend going ahead and extending the paint all the way around to the side of the canvas. All right, so that is certainly an option there. All right, now up here I'm seeing all these brush strokes that are looking too uniform and straight, and I want to definitely get more of an organic quality happening up here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that handle more again over to the side, and I'm going to do a quick little crisscross back and forth. Kind of help softly blend that into the background. And you can always push back into a little bit of white too. Kind of crisscross that back and forth in there. Get a nice soft blend that really helps it feel like it belongs with the rest of the sky back here. All right, so again, still working in a lot of our turquoise. And I'll go ahead and push this sky all the way through. When I cut in, even though there's going to be a lot of flower work that will eventually come in over the top here, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that our foundation is this turquoise in the background. And that just gives us a lot more freedom later on, because if you don't have a little bit of some flowers covering a certain area, you want to make sure that you still just see the sky in the background and that there's not any kind of wide open white space just showing through. So you want to make sure you get good coverage all the way through here in the background. And then again, as we do our cut-in work, you can do a nice thin line as much as you can around some of these shapes. Let the brush do the work for you using that line edge, because this is the biggest brush we've got. It's a flat, I call this brush Mama. Okay, and then once you work into it, then you can turn it more over to the side, parallel to the canvas, and then do that little crisscross action. Just kind of work it back and forth here. Just crisscross, crisscross. All right, I don't know what everybody's doing for 4th of July today, but we are going to go see my mom. So she has about 10 acres out in the country in Norman, Oklahoma. And it's really pretty out there. And we are bringing her fireworks and fried chicken. We felt like that was a winning combination, so that's what we're going to do. So my mom is a nurse, and so she works really, really hard, and she deserves a special treat on the 4th of July. So yeah, I don't know if anybody else out there is a nurse, or I'm sure you probably have family members that work in the healthcare profession, so they're working especially hard these days. And thank goodness my mom is a home healthcare nurse. So, because otherwise she probably would not be able to work. Amen! Hi, Relinda. There's a nurse. Yeah, we were talking about my mom and how, for the most part, she's pretty safe because she goes into homes where she's the only person that actually gets to visit them. But it did kind of frustrate me quite a bit that they were sending her into nursing homes, and I didn't think that was a really good thing to do at her age, because my mom's actually a lot older than most of her patients. So seemed a little bit tricky in my opinion. But my mom is super stubborn, and she doesn't doesn't listen to me or really anybody for that matter. But she's just like, the Lord is protecting me and I'm going to go where I want. Hello, Yoda, and yes, potato salad. Actually, I can assure you that my husband will not forget the potato salad. He is doing all the shopping right now. Because, yeah, as soon as I get done painting, we're headed that direction, and we're going to go eat fried chicken, potato salad, probably get some biscuits and stuff, some rolls. We're supposed to be on keto, but we haven't been doing very well since all of this COVID-19 stuff. Yeah. I'm having a really hard time fitting into my jeans, as a matter of fact. I got to get back on track. So, you know, we've just been kind of taking what pleasures we can in life, and food has been one of them. So we just kind of go, oh well, and we just eat what we want. And so, yeah. But it's kind of catching up to us, so we need to get back on track. You know how that goes. But looks like we're going to make another exception today on the 4th of July. But one of the good news factors about keto is that you can have cheat days. The problem is we take too many of them. So, but supposedly once a month you can have a cheat day. Yeah, I think that's what I've heard. But I don't know. So you know how you collect certain facts that you like that, you know, go along with what you want to do. So you just make that work for you. So that's one I like. All right. So we are still working into our background here. And I kind of been pushing in a lot of white to kind of create more of this like seafoam look here. And so I'm really liking this. And I just kind of keep pushing that brush to get that nice mix. I just do a lot of this back and forth like this as I'm working into the center of these little flowers, because I still need to get in that cut-in work, and I want that foundation that blends into the turquoise sky. But these are tiny little areas in there. And then as I work out to this larger area, then remember to turn that brush back over to the side. All right, awesome. Yay! So we have a lot of our background done now. And I love how it's, you know, there's a lot of variety happening. I've got lots of lights and then darker sections of turquoise, and then even little touches of all that cobalt blue that sort of come all throughout the background there. So the plate, again, looks like this. Here, lots of white, green, cobalt blue, and then we've got our turquoise, which is all three colors mixed up together, which you see over here. And then I was also really thoughtful about trying to place in a lot of pure white, pure blue as I went too. And just remember, just crisscross back and forth in there. It's very therapeutic too, really helps you relax. Oh, you know what? I didn't do the white, yellow. Let's do a little bit of sunshine that kind of comes in through here. All right, so I'm going to take that same brush. I'm going to just push it into that beautiful primary yellow. And let's have that kind of peek through here, like we've got a little bit of sunshine coming in our day. All right, so again, same stroke, just a little crisscross back and forth here. And there's my honey bear. Howdy, baby. They want to know if you remember potato salad.
I did.
Yay!
I got potato salad. I got everything. I got 3 different kinds of fried chicken.
Oh, I love that. That sounds wonderful. I don't know what that is, but I'm excited to try it. All right, so little tiny touches of primary yellow in here. Kind of lay it on the side of the brush. Just looks like beautiful little sunshine kind of peeking through. So this is a fun way to integrate in a little bit of that bright yellow from the model, but much easier for beginners to do this process here. So you're going to have a lot more success with this. All right, so we've got our background done now. Let's go ahead and do the background, the solid color. Yes, yay for potato salad. Let's do this section here. So this is that, you know, kind of a shabby chic picnic table. So what we've got going on now. So I want my mama brush, same mama brush here. I'm going to put this one off into the water. Let's go ahead and I'm going to cheat and get a fresh one over here off to the side. And then the color on this mix will be just some white and a little bit of black to start with. Mix those two together. That's going to give me a really pretty light gray. I'm also going to keep a lot of this pure white off to the side. The other thing that I actually like running through the background on the table is just a little hint of cobalt blue. So I'm going to push that off to the side here. Also, if you've got our kit at home, that would be your primary cyan blue too. All right, so here we go. I'm going to start with a lot of this white, a little bit of gray. I'm going to push this back and forth and go ahead and work that into the surface area. Let me mention this too. I'll be sure and put it on the, if you read the notes too on the color mixes, this background sky in here for our kit too is Viridian, and the really pretty actually it's just Viridian and cyan blue and white, and then just primary yellow. So that's the color mix there. All right, now we're working on our picnic table here, and I've got my line art already done, and that will bleed through, thank goodness, because it is done with a Sharpie. The other option you can do, if you don't want that coming through like that, and you prefer to work with a pencil, for example, you can always just let this completely set up and dry, and then you can take your ruler and your pencil and you can work in the line work afterwards too. All right, so now I've got a little bit of white, a little bit of that black with the white to make that gray. We're going to push this into the background. A little bit of cut in here. My mama brush is too big for that area. All right, so I'm doing my cut in across the straight line here, but now I want to take the brush a little bit more up to a diagonal so that it kind of matches basically the direction of the table, since the lines are kind of going a little bit up and to a diagonal. So I just want that brush stroke to match that. So I'm going to turn the brush a little bit of an angle and just do a light little feathering of the brush over the top up at an angle so that it matches the direction of the wood here. Don't want to forget that, but I do need little buddy brush here. I'm going to push into that same light gray. So here's little buddy, he's got a little flat top, but he is small enough to get into this little section right here. So I don't want to forget that, or it'll definitely get my attention later. It'll say, what in the world, what's that? All right, now I need to kind of feather it out. So I'm going to feather it out on the side of the brush. Do that same stroke, a little bit of a diagonal, fit it on the side there. All right, now I'm going to put little buddy off into the water. Something else with your brushes, acrylic paint sets up and dries pretty quickly, so you want to make sure if you're not using your brush, mine are always in the water until I get a chance to really thoroughly clean those off. All right, now I want to push into a little bit of this, either it's primary cyan blue or a little bit of cobalt blue, a little tiny touch of that. While the paint is still wet, I'm going to go ahead and do a light little drag here into that light gray. And see, it's very soft and muted because I definitely pushed it into that wet paint. So that creates a really nice look, and I just do a few little accents with this. Just a really nice way to have a little bit of a shadow. So basically I do it right around those little lines that you see that we placed in there. And then I can do a few more little accents right in through here. So tiny little touches of that blue. and then just lay them on right above those little areas, right above the little lines there. Now, and just, we had it traced out in the beginning. If you are coming in a little bit later and doing that, you can just take your ruler, and it's just a slight diagonal, and you can just position like 2 or 3 lines to create that picnic table look there underneath. All right, so let's see here. Let's work on our little base here. So we've got a really pretty, just light gray. Keep this really light. Super light, even actually it's going to be a little bit challenging, but even a little bit lighter than that. And I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of some gold to this. If you've got our kit at home, you can actually also just do a little bit of primary yellow. So that'll warm it up to more of like a taupe color. So the color mix on it would be a lot of white, mostly white in the mix. Teeny tiny amount of black to just bring that super light gray quality to it. And then to warm it up to more of a taupe color, you can add either a little bit of the primary yellow or a little touch of some yellow ochre if you've got some of that. All right, so I definitely want a creamy quality happening here. That'll also help it look different than the picnic table and kind of set it apart. So I'm going to start by working in here. This is a long curve. I'm going to go ahead and take my mama brush, come all the way around in that section. If you don't feel comfortable with this large of a brush in that area there, I would highly recommend the little buddy brush. That's a great tool to go ahead and get into that tiny section to make that little turn that goes all the way around there. And I'm going to continue to work into this creamy color that we have and just work this into our old picture. This is like an old antique picture here. And I don't want this to be completely all of this color. I want a little bit of some highlights happening now. So I'm going to go ahead and touch into a little bit of the white. And let's just kind of crisscross that back and forth in there too, so we get some nice little highlights happening. And that way it's starting to look a little bit kind of old and distressed. Alright, so there we go. Start with that cream on the outside. Do that cut-in work, that line work around the edge. Line there. More white. Kind of push that in. Gonna get some random kind of crisscross back and forth in here. Because just an old antique picture. So having that kind of random crisscross back and forth will really help. And then that comes in over the top of that cream color. All right, sweet. Okay, so while I've got this beautiful kind of old distressed looking cream color, I'm going to go ahead and do my line work up here on the top with the flag, because I want this to kind of look like an older flag that's a little bit antiqued as well. So it's easier for me to go ahead and do the lightest color first and have that show through. So it's that same kind of creamy color that we just mixed up, and there's a couple different ways you can use this line edge of the mama brush to work into each one of these sections where you just basically paint like this. Or what I think is going to be a little bit easier is, we like easy. All right, so let's do our little buddy brush. Now I need to mix up a little bit more paint here. So I got my white. Let's do a tiny touch of that gray and a little bit of that primary yellow. All right, so there we go. A little bit more of a creamy look. And then I'm going to go ahead and paint into this stripe here. And the little buddy brush fits pretty perfectly into that little tiny stripe. So that really helps make that a lot easier. And I'll just skip every other line. Another one right here. And then another one right here. And then we'll be coming in with red later, but I'm going to let this have a little bit of setup and dry time. All right. Yay! Okay. All right, so now it is time to start working in some of the flat colors with the flowers. All right, so I need some red. I'm gonna go ahead and switch back. This is a pretty big area here, so I'm gonna switch back to my mama brush. And then I wanna make sure and have some orange off to the side and some red. And we'll work in a little bit of black later, but for right now, let's go ahead and get some red and some orange. So we'll get that vibrant color of the poppy down first. All right, so we're gonna place this into those shapes that we traced out, get our foundation done. I call this color blocking. So it gives you that foundational color first. If you happen to go over the center here, it's not that big of a deal because that actually will come in black later, so real easy to cover that. All right, so again, red, a little touch of orange. We're going to go ahead and work this into all those little shapes. And when you're doing your cut-in work, of course, you're working more on the edge side of the brush. So I'm seeing a lot of brush strokes, a lot of transparency, so definitely follow up with that brush coming over to the side, parallel to the canvas, and get a nice thick coat of paint right over the top. So let's position this in all over the surface area here. This gives you a light, gentle hand, really allows a lot more of that paint to just really rest right on the surface. This little guy is actually going to be purple later, so I'm going to let that one just be on its own. These two are going to be more of that, like really pretty purple, periwinkle. So I'm going to leave those alone. And then feather it out. I'll come back in with black here in a minute and touch that, get that figured out, but for right now, I just want good coverage. And so I want to be able to turn my brush more over to the side. All right, very nice. Oh, you know what? Oh, I've got some. Okay, so while I've got red happening, let's go ahead and do our stripes up here because this has had some time to kind of set up a little bit. So let's go ahead and do that. But I'm going to switch over to my little buddy brush. And I'm going to go ahead and push into the red paint. And if you want to darken this a little bit to make it more just a hint of crimson, you can. That kind of also gives it a little bit of that distressed look as well. But you definitely want to pre-mix that on your plate. And I mean super, super tiny amount of black, hardly any. And so that, just that little tiny amount, just really it pushes it just about as far as you want to go. And then you can go ahead and push that into the stripe here. But you definitely want to see how it looks on the plate first. Because basically too much black will go right, I mean, yeah, if you put it into red, it'll basically just take it all to just pure black. I mean, you won't see the red anymore. So just very little amounts there. And then just kind of lightly feather this brush over to the side. So at first, I need good control as I work into it, so I'm going to go ahead and hold it more like a pencil. Get my first layer of coverage. And then that actually kind of scrapes the paint off, so I've got to be careful about placing that back on. So now I'll follow up. Actually, I got a little bead of paint there happening, so I'm going to go ahead and touch that. So now I need to follow back up with a little bit of a light hand, just feather it over the top here. Right over the surface to go ahead and get good coverage there. And I mean, it has to be almost exactly on the side, or else it'll just dig right into the paint and just scrape it off. Alright, so I'm going to take this all the way across. And then where I see some transparency, you can kind of lightly feather that back in. Looking really transparent there on the end, so I have to come back in with a light hand and lightly touch on the side of the brush. And sometimes for stuff like this too, you have to almost, sometimes you just have to wait for it to set up and dry and even just do another coat too. Red can be very, very challenging. Alright, so we've got a nice first step there, our cute little red stripes happening. Alright, now what we want to do is we want to work in some accents into our poppies so that they're not just, you know, pure flat red. So we can go ahead and work in some of this too. I am going to start with some of that darker crimson first. So I'm going to do a little tiny touch of the black, push that into the red. And then I've got a little bit of a shadow happening here, and guess what? I need a bigger brush. Because see, this was like making little tiny cross strokes that I don't want, and it's taking the paint off. So then I'm going to switch over to Mama, because I need a big surface area for the brush. And I'm going to go ahead and just lay that on. See the big difference there? Actually stays on the canvas. So I kind of darken it up for a little bit of this kind of shadow that's happening here. And again, this is a super tiny touch of the black with the red. Brings it to a little bit more of a crimson color. And I've got this coming in on just about half of the shape here. We've got a little bit of a shadow happening there. And then we're going to do the same thing on this one. A little bit of a soft blend with the rest of the red, but a little bit of that shadow that's cast on the top part. And then here, where we've got a few like little, almost like a parentheses of line, like that little soft curve that comes up for that petal effect there. So a little bit of a shadow happening there too. And on this one, we have a little bit of a shadow cast on this side. So just a little bit of that darker crimson red. Kind of lightly coming in on just that one side. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and pick up a little bit more of the orange and the red, and then just come in with another little soft coat here over the top, because it was looking a little bit transparent, so I'm going to go ahead and just fill in. And then basically kind of touch all these into that space. Again, a little bit of orange and red. And then I'm also going to touch into a little bit of that primary yellow, do a few little accents with that. So using that same brush, I'm just going to lightly pick this up. Just kind of lightly drag into the paint here. And do just a few little touch-ups with little highlights. So it's like I'm touching on the side of the brush, doing a light little drag into the wet paint. For little highlights. All right, wonderful. Okay, so now I'm going to come in with, I'll do some black here in a little bit, but for right now I want to go ahead and get in some of these different brighter colors of the flowers. And we've got a really fun pounce effect that we will do. So I am going to use another mama brush here, and we've got some purple and white and the blue. So I'm going to hit on the side of the brush into the purple like that. See how it's on the side? And then I'll just tap, tap, tap on the surface. This is a really fun way to do little round flowers in the arrangement. And as we've been, a lot of classes we've had, thousands. And I will say that every beginner can do this. So they may give up on poppies and roses, but they never give up on the pounce flower. So the one that kind of looks like a hydrangea or a carnation, they love this flower. In fact, sometimes the whole bouquet becomes this because it just always works. And they go, yay! I made that work. All right, so this is the base. And then I do a little touch of white. See right there on the side? And tap that into that flower. And you see how it just works every time. It's just so fun. So just a really fun way to do a flower. And you can do all different colors of flowers this way. Red and white or purple and white. You can also do a lot of greenery this way too. And then let me show you this. If I add a little touch of that blue in here, then it kind of pushes it to that beautiful kind of periwinkle. And it definitely has that feel like what you see in like that hydrangea. So it's really pretty. One of my favorites. All right, and then we're going to go up here, do the same thing. Hit on the side of the brush, tap, tap, tap. I'm going to do this one a little bit more in this direction, kind of form the direction of the petals going up. And then let me show you on a plate to kind of give you an idea of how cool the pattern is. So see how it makes that really fun, just keep hitting it and it can make those really fun little like petals. It's just really cool. So you can have a lot of fun with this. So I've got this one kind of facing up, but I'm just hitting on the side of the brush. And I will come back in with a little bit of a highlight here in a moment, but I need to take this more over to the side. So it kind of looks like it's fanning out. So I've got that brush, I'm sort of starting on this side, and then I'll go all the way around to the other side. So it kind of looks like a little fan is happening. And then I can get a little bit of some highlights happening here. So I'm going to go ahead and push into the white. And we're going to start with that little tapping action again so that that shows up right over the top. And that goes all the way around. But these little flowers like this are super, super fun and easy to do. So really awesome on that. All right, another fun way to do the pounce effect. Let me show you with some different colors too. So let's see here. I want to do some red and yellow or red and gold. All right, so this time I'm going to take Mama, or you could do Little Buddy too. Actually, let's do Little Buddy. Let's see. Let's make it smaller. All right, so here's Little Buddy, and then I want to make sure I've got some, you can use gold or some of that primary yellow. So I'm going to start with this red. I'm just going to dip into it here. And then let's say I want a little flower coming up this way. So a little bit of a diagonal, and then I'm just going to kind of tap, tap, tap on the side. So I push into the red, a little bit into that primary yellow, maybe a little bit of gold, and then I'm going to do a little tap, tap, tap going this direction. And I'll have it come further out on the side. Do a little bit of white in there too. That'll actually give a nice little highlight. And then at the very tip top, I want to kind of be very delicate and just kind of go up to a teeny tiny little delicate top. Happy 4th of July! Hello, Megan. Thank you. So I get a little bit more careful because as I go up to the top of this little flower, I want it to just basically come to a little point. All right, and then I want a little bit of some pop of just vibrant red over the top here. So I'm gonna go right back into that red and then kind of sprinkle that really vibrant red right over the top here. But again, it's still just that little tap, tap, tap effect. Hi, Donna. And then I'll do this here on the other side. All right, so that's just kind of another fun way to have a little, you know, part of your floral arrangement to have a different dimension to it. And then we can also just kind of pounce in more of like we've got a lot of yellow happening in the background of our model. So if I want to do a little bit of a mix of the red and the yellow, then I can just do a little bit of that tapping. I'm using my Little Buddy brush here, and I'm just going to kind of tap, tap here into these little sections. Let's bring in a little bit more of this vibrant yellow over the top. And let's do a little bit more here. So it just kind of looks like we've got some vibrant yellow flowers happening here in the mix. And then the other thing that we can do is also just greenery. So that's another really fun way to pull that into our flower mix here. And I want to go ahead and use, I've got the blue nearby, even a little bit of black nearby can be helpful. Another way to blend into green that darkens it, but is a little bit more subtle, is purple, believe it or not, because it takes it to almost kind of a dark shadow underneath, but it's a little bit more subtle. So you can add a little bit of purple with the green, and it kind of almost turns it to almost black, but not, but a much darker green. So that's another way to get that shadow in there. But I'm going to go ahead and tap into these places in here. So I can, if you want your green to be brighter, then you can do a green and white. If you want a little bit more of a shadow, then you can do just more of a, like a green with a little hint of purple kind of pounced in there too. So again, this is my Little Buddy brush. I'm just tapping on the side of the brush. And I'm going to have a little bit of this kind of trailing over the top here. I might have a little bit of like a little leafy bit of greenery sort of falling over the top of the picture. We'll just add a little tiny bit of that too. So a little tiny pounce, pounce, pounce. And then I just want to make sure that it becomes very delicate to a point here. And then you can also do some lighter, let's do a little bit of some lighter green. So I'll add a little bit of white there to that. I mix that together, it's going to look a lot more like a spring green. Kind of gets a different bit of texture happening. And so I'm going to go ahead and push this into the mix here. Again, just a light tap, tap, tap over the surface. Getting really close to that little handle. And as I go, I don't want this to become just too light, so I'm going to tap in some of that darkness to create a little bit of that shadow happening. So a little bit of purple kind of tapped in there too. Create some of that shadow in there. Just tapping on the surface. So it's nice because it can either look like a little bit of a shadow, or it can also look like a little bit of some purple, you know, floral work happening through there as well. And let's see. All right, so that's a good foundation for that. And then here in a minute, we'll work in a few little fun leaves and things too. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a quick little stem here. So while I've got this green kind of mixed up, do a little bit of a stem. Helps connect that. And then let's also do a little bit of some black little flag. All right. All right, let's do some really pretty little green leaves on here too. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, so I want my little bit brush. There's a really tiny one. Tiny, this little buddy. All right, this one's pretty good here. So a little bit of white, a little bit of green. So I want that leaf that looks like you make a parentheses and then another parentheses, and then those connect. So we're going to add in some of these too. And you can certainly vary the shapes, or the sizes rather, of the leaves. Make some of them a little bit bigger than others. So I'll make that one kind of big, and then I'll make this one kind of small. And you kind of tap, tap, tap into a certain, you know, like little tiny spots, just to kind of help fill in. You can do like little stems that are hanging down, and then do tiny little leaves off of that. And then I want some brighter green in through here just to help it kind of match. I'm going to do just little touches of some brighter green in through here too. So I'm going to do little touches in there so that it looks like it belongs more with the rest of the greenery we have happening in through here. And I'm noticing a little bit of transparency, but basically that can certainly be fixed with another coat. And you just want to barely lay that brush on over to the side. That'll help you have that really good coverage over the top. All right, so we're getting some really nice little greenery kind of hanging out over to the front there. And I want to add a little bit of some greenery up here at the top too. That definitely happens. So I'll do little touches. Little tap taps through here. All right, looking lovely. Okay, so now what I want to do is go ahead and get some black happening. Let's see, a little bit brush. All right, so I'm gonna do a quick little turn into the black. That will load up the brush, but it will give me a nice fine point. I'm basically just twisting the brush by twisting it in between my fingertips here. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the little circle action. And I'll go ahead and fill this in with a little bit of some black. I've got the same thing happening here. Spin that round, around, around. Then I have just a few little accents of black happening through the flower. So I'm going to go ahead and come up with one little shadow, lightly push in a little bit of that petal edge, and then one more here. We got just a few of those happening there too, just a couple. And then definitely a little bit of some black happening here. Tiny little lines, just a little bit of that shadow coming through. And let's do a little bit of a black line here, just a little touch, little accent. Maybe even just a little tap, tap, tap to help connect that shadow to the flower. I'm tapping a little bit of black here into the base. It just kind of creates that little shadow here at the base of the flower. And every now and again, I might just tap a little bit of black in throughout the bouquet. Just looks like a little bit of shadow happening here. Just little tiny touches. Okay, so now I need to do, I'm going to go ahead and do an outline around my picture. I didn't have that in the model, but I've got this Sharpie line here, and so because I love to teach you that so much, but it looks a little bit raw and unfinished at this point. So what I'm going to do is to make it an outline, but not so harsh. I'll do a dark charcoal color. And so I want to go ahead and take a little bit of some white into that black. So it's not quite, black, but again, just a dark charcoal color. And I want to make sure that I have a nice thin line on the edge of the brush here. This is my Mama brush. So what you want to be careful of is that if you've been using this, like let's say you've been painting with this somewhere else, and it's filled with paint, and those bristles can kind of spread out a little bit. So you want to get that thin back down to where it's nice and thin on the edge. So just apply some firm pressure to load up that paint. And so it's right where I want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and use this to do a nice little edge. So I'll take this all the way around. And I will not be able to use this same brush around the curves. It won't make it. So it'll make a big thick line, and you do not want that to happen. But anytime I have a long line, I can go ahead and use the length of this brush to work in my favor. and to do those long lines. So I'll do the sketches here of that picnic table happening here. And then the other thing you can do too is you can follow up. I work a lot where I work back and forth into something, so I've got this darker line and then I can come up right up next to it. And then just go ahead and do another line just right underneath, do it like a soft blend. Alright, so that's a fun technique like that too. Alright, so again, we've got our dark charcoal line now. Reload, firm pressure. All the way across. All right, now we're going to soften it. Mama brush again, white paint, and just do a slight undercoat here. So it gives it kind of like a nice soft blend. Creates a little bit of a shadow just underneath that line. And I'll follow up with all of these that way. So a little bit of that gray kind of trailing off on its own. It looked a little unnatural, so I'm going to feather that back in. Let's finish off a little dry brush there. Alright, awesome. Now I still need to kind of firm this up with a nice black line. So I'm going to work back in with a much smaller brush. So I've got my little buddy brush, which will work. So I'll take little buddy, push little buddy into that darker charcoal color. And I'll go ahead and do soft curve line here. Picking up some of that green, so I'm going to go ahead and do a quick wipe. I don't want that green traveling all the way down on the curve, so I'm going to go ahead and I had to wipe that clean. Firm pressure here into the charcoal. Getting some dry brush there, so a couple of tricks on that. You can certainly add a little bit of water to it. However, I can't hold mine. You don't want to hold it in the vertical position as you do that, or else you'll get a water run. But that's certainly one way to eliminate dry brush and get a really nice line edge. In this case, I'm just going to make sure that I'm just going to be very careful. So I kind of know exactly how much water to mix and how much I can get away with without it running. But for beginners, just lay it flat, and then that way you'll be okay. And we've got this little section in here. And you can actually also, let's do a little bit brush. I think little bit could be easier. All right, so we've got little bit, and we're going to go ahead and do a quick little twist. And actually using, let me get some fresh black here. I want to make sure it's very fluid and liquidy. All right, so a little bit, I'm going to do a quick little twist here into the paint. This will give me a really nice fine point. And then I'm going to go ahead and outline around this curve here. All right, so I'm going to rework the handle a little bit so that it's not such a big line in there, because I kind of did a lot of cut into the handle with a black line. So what I'll basically do, and this will actually create a really nice effect. So you've got this overpaint of black happening, then you want to rework the cream into the handle, which will give you that nice soft blend over the top. So it really creates a nice look there. So that soft blend happens. And you see how it went from this really strong black line, which was kind of abrupt, and now you've got a nice soft blend happening. So just rework that cream right over the top. I want to softly blend in here. I'm actually going to, oops, I'll rework the green here a little bit. But I really want this softly blended, so I'm going to go ahead and work this in here. And then to kind of help get it to match the rest without it being this abrupt line, I'm going to do a little bit of a light sketch here. Kind of wiggle the brush with a light sketch. Picking up a little bit of some white. And that cream again. Wiggling out the brush a little bit. Okay, let's see. I need some water real quick. I haven't eaten yet today. My blood pressure's dropping.
Chicken wings?
I don't know, but I'm feeling my blood pressure dropping really low right now. I'm just gonna drink some water. Yeah, maybe a piece of cheese or something. All right, I'm gonna, hey Audrey, I'm having one of those power surges. You came in just in time. Oh my gosh. But yeah, it's hitting me that I haven't eaten yet today, and so I don't know what time it is, but maybe kind of late. And I'm like going, oh, my body's like, hello, feed us. All right, water's helping. Okay, I'm gonna like pounce over this green just a little bit. Let's see, so I've got my little buddy brush, and I'm gonna do a quick little tap over the top. All right, so here we go. My honey bear's in there trying to get me some food. I'm gonna do a little bit of a trail with the green just coming down here. Just tap, tap, tap. And then I'm gonna grab my, let's see, a little too much excess water, so I'm gonna dry that off. And I'm gonna do a little push with this brush to where it just looks like you've got little petals. Ooh, I like that. Okay. Thank you, lover.
Certainly.
I've got food.
4th of July, eat up.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to eat on camera, but
Yeah, you do.
I do.
All right.
Okay. They don't want, y'all don't want to see me pass out either, so I'm gonna eat. All right. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm actually hitting on the side of this brush. And so that's giving me a really nice little petal effect, and I'm digging on that. That's looking really cool. So I'm going to show you one more over here too. But you can really trail that around. And I'm going to show you on a plate. All right, so little taps like that. And it almost looks kind of leafy, so that's a really fun technique there. Yay! All right. All right, so now we have this really pretty little heart we need to do, and also a little bit of some blue in the background on our flag. All right. I'm eating. Sorry.
You need to eat a couple bites.
Yeah, I know.
It's all right. It's America.
It's America. We can eat. Sorry, I forgot to eat. All right, so water, food. All right, starting to feel better. Okay, so let's do a little heart here with our little bit brush. And I'm going to, actually, let's start with some blue and some white. All right, a little bit of blue, a little bit of white. And if you have the kit, this would be your cyan blue, and then I've got some cobalt blue and white, but basically that's the color mix. And I want my little bit brush, and I'm going to go ahead and paint this into the background here. So a little bit brush and some either cyan blue or cobalt blue. And I'll take this all the way around that little heart. And I am bracing my hand here with my pinky. This will help stabilize your hand. So especially if you have the shakes, it really helps out a lot. A lot of people, a lot of beginners that I work with, they end up getting like a little bit of a shaky hand. All right, so that's our beautiful blue there. And then I want to go ahead and do a really pretty golden yellow color. So still using my little bit brush, I'm going to go ahead and push into this primary yellow. And you can also add a little bit of that cadmium yellow to it too, to really make it super golden. Also, it helps it cover better, I think, too, to have a little bit more warmth added into it. And then adding a little bit of white to that will also help it cover better. So you can actually mix about 3 different colors: primary yellow, cadmium yellow, and a little bit of white. Mix all that together. And just work that into this pretty little heart here. And then lightly kind of feather out the strokes there by pushing on the side of the brush. That will give you a nice soft blend. Alrighty. Now that I've got this yellow, I'm thinking, may have a few little pounces of it here in the green. It'd be kind of pretty. Extend that down. All right, wonderful. Okay. So now what we've got, we still have this little bit of detail here with the word love. And I think if this is dry, so there's a couple of different options that you can do here. So you can either do a Sharpie or paint. So the Sharpie is what I usually always suggest to beginners because it is quite a bit easier. I'm noticing this little bit of, I'm going to work back into that. Take a little bit of shadow. All right. So now I've got that little bit of line work that I can do. So then what I'll do is, you can see how easy it is with a Sharpie. I've got one right here somewhere. There it is. All right, now a little trick with the Sharpie is if it's not, thank you. Happy 4th of July. Hi, David. Hi, Audrey. Hi, Donna. So this is still dry, so I can use the Sharpie. You just absolutely want to make sure that your surface is dry, or else it will kill a Sharpie instantly. So then we can go ahead and fill in over the top here. So I'm going to go ahead, and it's easier if you just kind of let it give your hand a place to rest. If you're working at home, you can certainly just use your tabletop. And then the good thing is I had this pre-drawn in the beginning, so I can just follow along here. Ta-da! All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and sign today with my Sharpie as well. So I'm going to do that. It's traditionally done in the bottom corner. Yay! Tipsy Artist! Woohoo! All right. So that is it. We are done with our beautiful Poppies and Patriotic flag painting today. So it looks really awesome. And everything that you need is on our website, tipsyartist.com. So we do have awesome templates for you. Let me give you a little visual on that. All right, so we've got the picture, and we have the flag. And then we've got little poppies in all different shapes. And then of course it comes with brushes and paint and a canvas. So again, everything you need, tipsyartist.com. We made it super easy for you. We keep this video up so you can always watch it whenever you want and do this painting whenever you want. And we just want to thank you again so very much for joining us today. Yay! And y'all have a wonderful rest of the day, and happy 4th of July. And I'll see y'all soon. Mwah.